Hey everybody, it's Liam Douglas, also known as the Aperture Assassin here on YouTube. And in this video, we're going to be going over the gold menu tabs in the Canon EOS R. Again, like I've said in previous videos, Canon has kept the same menu system for both their DSLR and mirrorless cameras. They've used the same menu system for a long time. So even if you don't have an EOS R, most of the items in this video will still pertain to your Canon camera. All right, let's grab the EOS R and let's get into this. Okay, so in the gold menu with the one that's highlighted with the wrench symbol at the top of your screen, the first item you have is select folder. This is where you can specify a folder to have your images stored in. The default one on the EOS R is 100 EOS_R. You can create a new folder if you prefer and name it. I'm not going to do that. I never use custom folders, but you can if you want to. The next item on tab 1 is file numbering. I have mine set to continuous. You can set it to auto reset. Basically, if you put it on auto reset, what that means is every time you take your memory card out and put it back in to do another shoot, it's going to reset back to 0001 for the first file number, and it'll count up from 0001 again. You can also do a manual reset from within this menu of the numbering sequence. The next item down is file name. Now, you're not going to necessarily have this on your camera depending on the camera you have. Certain cameras, Canon will allow you to change the file name prefix for your image files. By default, it's always IMG _ and then its numerical sequence number as it continues to count them as you take photos. Being that I have the EOS R camera, I can set a custom file name prefix, and I have mine set to LDP, which is Liam Douglas Photography or Liam Photography. And you have options here to change the user settings 1 or 2. Where you can set up a new one, as you can see there. I'm not going to erase mine. I'm going to continue using the one that I already have set up. All right, so the next item we have is auto rotate. This is whether or not you want to allow your images that you take vertically to auto rotate. You can have it do so on both the camera and your computer, just on the computer, or you can have it totally turned off. That's up to you. Some people like to have it on. It's mostly a personal preference thing. The last entry we have is format card. And of course, if you hit that, it lets you know that all the data on your SD card will be lost. I currently have 24.8 megabytes on there because I have the one sample test image that I showed you in the last video when I was going over the display, print, and transfer menu, the blue menu. And you can also check the box using the trash can button on the back or the delete button on the back of your camera. You can turn on and off the ability to do a low-level format. Those of you that aren't IT people probably don't realize that when you format something or when you delete files, whether it's on your camera or your computer, they aren't actually deleted. What happens is the files have their file name changed to start with a special character such as an exclamation point. And once they're renamed with an exclamation point as the first character in the file name, it renders them invisible to the operating system. If you do a low-level format, however, it does totally wipe the SD card. So just keep that in mind. The second tab we have, the first item is eco mode. You can turn that on or off. That's has to do with power settings to conserve power. There's also a separate power saving where you can set the display timeout for your display from 30 seconds. Let's see here. I guess 15 is the shortest, 30, 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't know why the EOS R doesn't allow you to turn the display off timer completely off, because the RP does. And this is a higher level, more expensive body than the RP. And yet the RP will allow you to turn the display timer completely off or disable it, but the R doesn't, which is kind of odd if you ask me. You also have the auto power off, where you can set a time limit before the camera automatically powers off. I have mine disabled because when I'm out shooting, If I'm not doing a portrait shoot, I'm just out shooting nature, landscapes, wildlife, something like that, or I'm doing a hike and shoot. In between photos, I generally tend to turn my camera back off until I'm ready to shoot again. You also have a timer for viewfinder turn off, and you can set it to 1 minute, 3 minute, or you can disable it on that option. I just don't understand why you can't disable the display power off, which seems kind of weird to me. Additionally, we have the display brightness. Whoop, let me go back here. Maybe I have to set these so I can show you the others. I didn't think I did. Oh no, they're still set. Okay, so this, because I have HDMI plugged in. So anyways, when you're in here, the display brightness normally would have hash marks. And if you turn the upright wheel behind your shutter button, you can change your display brightness and darkness. Same with the color tone for your display. You can change those if you're not plugged into HDMI like I am to record this video. Then you have your date, time, and time zone. This is where you set your camera's date, time, and what time zone you're in. I have it set to New York, of course, because I'm on the East Coast in the Atlanta area. And then the last one on this tab is language, and that's where you can choose what language, native language, you want your camera's menu system to be in. Of course, mine's set to English. I did take French in high school, but I'm not very fluent anymore just because I haven't used it in so long. All right, so on the third tab, you have video system. I have mine set for NTSC, which is for the United States. PAL is the video system format that's used in European countries. You have your touch control. You can set it for standard, sensitive, or disabled. Again, that's all on personal preference. The beep is your system beep. You can set it to enabled, touch, but silence, and then disabled. I usually leave mine enabled. Sometimes I'll turn the beep off because it can get annoying. The next item we have is battery info. This will show you the overall health of your battery. And as you can see, mine currently has 97% charge left. The current shutter count is 0. And the recharge performance has 3 green bars, which means my battery is still very healthy. Sensor cleaning. This is where you can set it to automatically clean the sensor at power off. You can clean it now. And if you do clean manually, this will actually allow you to set the camera, and you have to leave the camera powered on, but it'll lift the protective curtain that normally covers the sensor when you don't have a lens on it, so that you could manually clean the sensor if you needed to. I don't recommend doing that unless you're comfortable doing it. There is a special tool that you can use to clean your sensor effectively. It's called the Sensor Gel Stick, and I'll put a link for that product in the show notes. I am not plugging it that I get any money from them or anything like that. I bought it a number of years back, and it is a fantastic, quick, simple, easy way to effectively clean debris off your sensor. HDMI resolution is the next item. That is where you can set what the HDMI output resolution is going to be. You can set it to 1080p or auto. I have mine on 1080p. I don't use 4K just because, you know, anything recorded in 4K is massive and takes up a lot of disk space and takes a lot of processing power to edit. HDMI, HDR output is turned off. I can't turn that on right now because of the associated function setting of HDMI resolution. If I set it to auto, then I can turn this on, as you can see here. But I leave it off generally, and I leave my display at 1080p. The fourth tab is the shooting info display. And if you go inside there, you have screen info settings, and it's another checklist of items you can turn on and off on your screen, and it shows you what each one is as you highlight it. So you can turn that screen info there that shows all of your settings off or on, your level, electronic level off and on, these items off and on, and then these items off and on. And if you see, you can see all the items that are added to the overall display with having them all turned on. I leave them all on just because I like to have it. The next one is viewfinder info toggle settings. This is where you can turn on and off items in the viewfinder. If you like to be able to see your histogram in the viewfinder and stuff like that, you can have it enabled, which can come in handy. Viewfinder vertical display on or off. That just it controls whether or not you're EVF will flip the vertical mode when you turn the camera to vertical mode, or if it'll stay on horizontal mode. The grid display, I have mine turned on and set for 3x3. You can set it to 6x4 or 3x3 plus diagonal, just like you can on the display settings with grid for display that we covered in the previous video. Your histogram display, you can set the brightness, RGB, and you can also set the display size if you want a large histogram or a small one. The last one, show focus distance in display always, but it's not available with the lens I currently have on my EOS R because it's a third-party lens. It's the Rokinon 14mm f2.8 that I use for my real estate work. All right, so if we go back, that's all the items under tab 4. So if we go to tab 5, these are your communication settings. You have your wireless communications, and this is where you can set it up so that you can connect to your camera using the Canon Connect app. Again, if your camera does have Wi-Fi, it doesn't matter what model of Canon camera it is, you'll be able to use the Canon Connect app. You can turn the Wi-Fi on, and then you can set up your password. You can show the connection history, auto send images to the computer automatically, send a smartphone after shot, and you can view the MAC address for your camera. I leave my Wi-Fi turned off unless I'm actually using it. Bluetooth functions are in here as well. You can have Bluetooth turned on or off. You can set it to Bluetooth with smartphone or Bluetooth with a remote shutter, either one. And you have your pairing, you know, you can go to your pairing and all that good stuff if I needed to, but I currently don't need to. You can also check and clear connection info, and you can view the Bluetooth address for your camera. If you do have Bluetooth turned on, you can set it to send images to smartphone, which is currently grayed out. You can give your camera a different nickname if you want. I leave mine set to EOS R because I have a bunch of different cameras. And then you also have clear wireless communication settings. If we go back, the other item is GPS device settings. Now, the EOS R does not have built-in GPS. I have no idea why Canon left it out. I thought it was one of the stupidest moves they made. They doubled down on it by not putting GPS in either the R5 or the R6, which again, to me, is completely idiotic, especially when those bodies are supposed to replace the 5D line and the 6D line, and both the 5D and the 6D DSLRs have GPS in them. But this is where you could set up, you could select a GPS receiver device. I do have the Canon hot shoe mountable GPS unit. I can't remember the model number off the top of my head, but I do have it. So if I have that mounted in the hot shoe and it's turned on, my camera will see it, and then I can set it up. But as you can see, menu cannot be displayed. GPS receiver is not connected. If it was, I would have the option to set up the GPS receiver, set the auto update interval as far as how frequently it'll ping the GPS satellites to get a location lock and stuff like that. The last tab we have, let me go back here. We have the multifunction lock. That's where you can set the multifunction lock to the main dial, quick control dial, touch control, function bar, and the control ring. You can set all of these here in this menu. I leave mine set for just the top dial and the control ring. They're the only ones that I currently use. I played around a little bit with the touch bar. I don't hate it like some people do, but sometimes it's useful, sometimes it's not. So I frequently have it turned off, but sometimes I'll turn it on and I'll set it to control my ISO, to raise and lower my ISO. Custom shooting modes. This is where you can program your C1 and C3 positions on the top of the EOS R's mode dial, or on the mode dial. Most all Canon cameras will have at least C1, C2, and some models have C3. All it basically means is you can set specific settings. Let's say you shoot landscapes all the time, and you tend to use the same settings all the time because you're always using the same lens. So let's say you're always using f8 for your aperture, ISO 100 because you're shooting during the daytime on a sunny afternoon, and your shutter speed is always set at 1/60th of a second. You could actually punch in all of those settings on your camera under the manual mode, and then you can go in here and you can say register settings, and you can save those settings to one of the custom function mode, C1, C2, and my camera has C3 as well. Now, what I currently do on my Canon cameras is I have C2 set to the settings I use for outdoor photos when I'm doing my real estate photography. And we use a different set of camera settings for the indoor shots in the homes. So I have that configured in C2 and C3 I don't currently use. That just gives you the way to quickly change back and forth the settings that you use on a regular basis, so you don't have to individually change each setting each time you want to shoot a particular type of photograph or in a particular type of environment. Then, of course, you can clear the settings. You can have auto update set to enabled or disabled. What that'll do is if you have settings already in C1 and you change to new settings, you can have it automatically apply the new parameters to that mode that you're already in, whether it's C1, C2, or C3. All right, so the next item is clear all camera settings. This will erase most all of your custom settings on the camera, but not everything. It's not a factory reset. The copyright information is where you can display your copyright info and embed it in the EXIF data of your photos, so that you can view the EXIF data in Lightroom, in Capture One, On One Photo Raw, and some of the other photography editing programs that are out there. Also, sometimes, depending on the website, when you upload your photos to certain photo sharing websites, it'll display the EXIF data as well. Like if you're on 500px like I am, if you're on UPic like I am, some of the sites like that do incorporate the EXIF data when you upload a photo to share on there and show everybody what your camera is, what your lens is, and what your settings were when you got the shot. Here you can set author's name. And you see I have mine set to Liam Douglas -Liam Photography. And then if we go back, all right, so if we go back, you can enter your copyright details, all rights reserved, blah, blah, blah. Oh, come on. There we go. And last but not least, you can delete copyright information. Now, I generally tell people the easiest way to set your copyright information on your camera is use the companion app. Canon has the EOS utility that comes with your camera. If you lost the CD that came with your camera, you can always go to Canon's support website and look up the model of your camera, type in the name of your camera, go to the camera's page on canon.usa or usa.canon.com, and you can download a copy of the EOS utility software for free from Canon's support website. Manual and software URL. See, this pulls up a QR code you can scan with your camera on your smartphone, and it'll take you to this website where you can download the manuals and any software for your camera, firmware updates, stuff like that. The certification logo display, and that just gives the certification information from Canon if you select it. And then, of course, you have your current firmware version. Mine's currently 1.7.0, which is the latest for the EOS R. This is the menu you would also go into if you need to update the firmware on your EOS R, and I will cover that in a separate video. So this is going to wrap up the gold menu tabs, or the yellow menu tabs, whatever you want to call them. So we've covered all the stuff that's in there, and of course we'll be continuing the series with the last two menu areas, which are the custom ones. And then, of course, the final tab is My Menu. Okay, so this is going to wrap up the fourth menu video in this series on the Canon camera menus. Like I said, my camera is the EOS R, but if you have a Canon DSLR, you have the Canon EOS RP, R5, R6. The menus are all pretty much the same. There'll be subtle differences depending on your camera model, you know, certain technology features that only your camera has or only certain models have, but everything else is going to be the same. So that'll wrap up our fourth video in this series, and we still have two more to go. The custom menu, where you can set all kinds of customizations, and then the last menu is called My Menu. That is the orange menu for the customizations and the green menu for My Menu. So please subscribe, like, share this video, hit the little bell icon so you can be notified when the next video drops, and I will see you next time.